Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're looking at a stack of sources that challenge a truly terrifying modern reality.
Oh, it really is terrifying.
Right, because you can meditate, you can journal every single morning, you can track your macros, you can read every self-help book on earth.
Yeah,
And you can still be a fundamentally miserable, stressed out brain in a jar.
exactly.
We are diving into the messy biological reality of actual integration. Because there is just a massive difference between conceptualizing your personal growth and, actually living it.
It is the ultimate bottleneck for anyone interested in development.
Yeah.
You amass all this intellectual framework, but your day-to-day nervous system remains completely unchanged.
Just stuck.
Exactly. And the sources we're analyzing today, specifically focusing on the chapters concerning the practice and the obstacles, they introduce a recurring protagonist simply called the traveler.
Right, the traveler.
And this traveler hits a wall that I think is going to resonate deeply with anyone listening.
No, for sure.
They realize that their pursuit of alignment and mindfulness has just become another exhausting metric.
Like tracking steps, but for peace.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
They're meticulously logging their mindfulness minutes on an app. They're analyzing their own psychology, but their actual lived experience is completely disembodied.
They basically turn peace into a project.
Yes.
And the visual the text uses is just haunting. They describe the traveler as acting like a brain in a jar.
It's a great image.
Just this isolated intellect hovering above a body it barely acknowledges, trying to think its way into being grounded.
Which is a biological impossibility.
Right.
You literally can't do it.
Right.
And to understand why this trap is so dangerous, especially for ambitious, analytically minded people, we have to look at the sheer mathematics of the human nervous system.
Okay, lay the math on us.
Well, the sources present a data point that entirely reorients how we should think about self-awareness. When we talk about the nervous system, we aren't just talking about your brain and your skull.
Right, it's the whole body.
We are talking about your entire somatic reality. Proprioception, sensory input, visceral interoception, your subconscious threat detection. All of that takes in and processes approximately 11 million bits of information per second.
Wait, 11 million bits per second.
Yeah, 11 million.
If my conscious mind, the part of me that is currently talking, analyzing, and trying to be mindful, is only handling, 40 bits?
About 40 bits, yeah.
What is processing the other 10,999,000 bits?
Yeah.
Because, I feel like I'm the one in the driver's seat, but that math suggests I'm barely even a passenger.
You are experiencing a highly curated illusion of control.
Wow. Okay.
Those 40 conscious bits are your working memory, your language centers, your linear thoughts.
The stuff I actually hear in my head.
Exactly. The other 11 million bits are being processed by your autonomic nervous system and your subconscious.
Like what kind of stuff?
It's the microfluctuations in the ambient temperature on your skin,
Okay.
the barometric pressure dropping before a storm, the subtle shift in the vocal tone of the person you're speaking with, even just the digestion of your breakfast.
So it's everything.
Everything. Your body is a massive, incredibly sensitive radar dish, constantly reading the environment for safety or danger.
So when the traveler, or when you, listening to this, tries to intellectualize your way out of a stress response,
Yeah.
you're trying to command an 11 million bit mainframe using a 40-bit terminal.
Precisely.
They're basically trying to navigate an ocean using a teacup.
You cannot outthink a physiological state. True integration is about plugging that 40-bit conscious awareness back into the 11 million bit reality of the body.
I hear that, but practically speaking, let's look at how people actually try to solve this.
Sure.
If someone does their 20 minutes of deep breathing on the yoga mat every morning, if they do their stretches, shouldn't that sync the systems up?
You'd think so.
Right. You do the practice, you get the result. Why doesn't that 20-minute session fix the rest of the day?
Because treating your practice like a discrete task to be completed is the exact illusion the source material tears down. The goal of integration is not to be perfectly serene on a meditation cushion in a silent, temperature-controlled room, only to use that as a psychological permission slip to be a disembodied, reactive maniac for the other 23 hours and 40 minutes of the day.
Oh, man, the check-the-box mentality.
Exactly.
I did my breathing, I've achieved wellness for the day, now I can go back to screaming at traffic.
It's compartmentalization, not integration.
Right.
The real test of your practice isn't how you feel when the incense is burning.
When it's easy.
Exactly. The real test is doing the dishes at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday when you're exhausted.
Oh, that's real.
It's sitting in bumper-to-bumper traffic when you're already 10 minutes late for a crucial meeting. It's the moment your partner says something sideways to you and your chest just instantly tightens.
So this deep dive is about how to make integration your default operating system, not just a temporary app you open when you feel overwhelmed.
Yes, exactly that.
So what does that actually look like when the rubber meets the road? Because the sources give this highly relatable anecdote about the traveler.
They do.
They know all the theory. They know the breath work. They know the cognitive reframing. But they wake up after a terrible night of sleep. They get hit with a sudden high-stakes challenge at work, and immediately everything collapses.
The whole system just fails.
Right. The mind starts racing, the breathing gets shallow and trapped in the upper chest. Their peripheral vision literally narrows. They fragment entirely.
Yeah.
All the theoretical tools just evaporate.
Which is exactly how the nervous system is designed to work under perceived threat.
Wait, designed to work that way?
Yes.
Yeah.
When the amygdala detects danger, even if that danger is just a stressful email from your boss, it essentially overrides those 40 conscious bits.
It just shuts them down.
It pulls the fire alarm.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the traveler's mentor steps in with a paradigm shift that changes the entire trajectory of the practice.
Okay, what's a shift?
The mentor explains that integration is not a final destination.
It's not a VIP lounge you finally get the password to, where you just never get stressed again.
No, not at all. The expectation of permanent Zen is a setup for constant failure.
That makes so much sense.
The true definition of integration is simply a return.
A return.
Yes, you are a biological organism in a chaotic world. You will drift. You will get lost in your head.
It's inevitable.
You will get triggered and fragment. Integration is the act of noticing that drift and consciously choosing to re-enter the body. It is entirely about the speed and the grace of your recovery.
To make this concrete, let's look at the subway laboratory analogy from the text. I think this brilliantly illustrates the difference between surviving your environment and actually being integrated within it.
It's a perfect example.
Think about the average commute on a crowded, noisy subway train. Before any sort of integration work, the default strategy is pure sensory evasion.
It is a masterclass in dissociation.
Exactly. You have noise-canceling headphones blaring. You are staring rigidly at your phone screen or a spot on the dirty floor.
You don't want to make eye contact with anyone.
Right. You treat your own body like a piece of luggage that your brain just has to temporarily transport from point A to point B.
Yeah.
You are doing everything in your power to sever the connection to those 11 million bits of environmental data because it feels overwhelming.
And compare that to the post-integration state.
How does that look different?
Well, the integrated person doesn't magically transcend the subway. They don't suddenly enjoy the smell of stale coffee and crowded bodies.
Because that'd be weird.
Right. But they meet that discomfort from a place of presence. They feel the physical pressure of their feet bracing against the floor of the moving train.
They're actually in their body.
They notice the unconscious tension creeping up into their jaw and shoulders, and they actively choose to soften it.
Okay.
They maintain soft peripheral vision instead of tunnel vision. They are holding their internal space without needing to shut the external world out.
It's the difference between bracing for impact and riding the wave. Which means the goal isn't to never lose your balance. The goal is losing your balance with awareness and standing back up with more skill.
Yes.
But that brings us to the obvious friction point.
Mm-hmm.
Why is standing back up so agonizingly difficult?
Right.
I mean, when you know you are spiraling on a Tuesday morning, why is the resistance to just taking a deep breath so incredibly heavy?
To answer that, we have to look directly at the neurobiology of change. Your default patterns, the way you dissociate on the subway, the way your chest tightens when you read an email, your specific flavor of anxiety, those aren't just abstract personality quirks.
They're not just who you are.
No. They are physical, biological structures inside your brain. They are heavily myelinated neural pathways.
And myelin is essentially the insulation around the nerve fibers that makes the signals travel faster.
Exactly. Hebbian learning dictates that neurons that fire together wire together.
Right, I've heard that.
If you've spent 10 years reacting to stress by shallow breathing and obsessing over worst-case scenarios, your brain has built a massive, multi-lane, high-speed neural highway for that exact response.
Wow. A superhighway for panic.
Yes. It is incredibly metabolically efficient for your brain to use that highway. So when a stressor hits, the brain automatically routes the signal down the path of least resistance.
Which means the new practices, the deep breathing, the noticing, the grounding, are not highways.
No.
At the beginning, they're just bumpy, overgrown dirt trails in the woods.
Yes. And the brain, which is always trying to conserve energy, aggressively does not want to take the dirt trail.
It wants the easy route.
It wants the highway. And this is why the sources drop a reality check about the timeline of neuroplasticity that we really need to address.
Yeah, let's talk about the timeline. Because we all know the old pop psychology myth that it takes 21 days to build a habit.
Right, 3 weeks and you're cured.
It's a nice idea to sell books, but the actual data the sources rely on paints a much more daunting picture.
Very daunting.
Depending on the complexity of the behavior, it takes anywhere from 66 to 254 days to wire in a complex, new neurological baseline.
Up to 254 days of choosing the dirt trail over the highway?
Which requires an entirely different kind of psychological endurance than a 3-week challenge.
Oh, absolutely.
You are literally engaging in the slow, architectural remodeling of your own brain tissue.
But practically speaking, we live in a culture completely addicted to instant gratification.
Yeah, we want the app to fix us by Friday.
Right. If someone is on day 22 and they are still feeling clunky and they still fragment during a meeting, how do they not just throw their hands up and say, this doesn't work for me, I'm biologically broken?
I mean, that's the question. How do you sustain motivation for 254 days?
This is where the source material introduces one of its most hopeful concepts, the meta-learning mathematics, specifically something called the acceleration denominator.
The acceleration denominator.
Yes. The 254-day timeline is usually for the first major cycle of integration.
Okay.
The text uses the example of the traveler undergoing an 18-month athletic and physical development cycle to establish their first real baseline. 18 months of grinding resistance.
That sounds exhausting.
But crucially, with each completed cycle of transformation, your learning velocity actually increases.
Because you aren't just learning the specific new habit, you are learning how to change.
Precisely. You are upgrading the meta operating system. You are gaining the admin password to your own neuroplasticity.
Wow.
The math presented in the text shows a compounding acceleration coefficient. It's usually a 15 to 25% increase in speed per cycle.
So it actually gets faster.
Much faster.
Yeah.
So cycle 2 for the traveler, which focused on career alignment, took 12 months. That is roughly 33% faster.
Right.
By the time they hit cycle 3 for financial discipline, it took 8 months. By cycle 5, focused on creative expression, the transformation locked in after just 4 months.
That is a 78% acceleration from the baseline.
Exactly.
That completely reframes the struggle. I mean, the friction you feel in month 2 isn't just you failing to learn a breathing technique. It's you doing the heavy lifting to make every future change in your life 78% easier.
That is a massive return on investment.
So if we accept the biology and we commit to building these dirt trails, where is the actual starting line?
Well, the sources are incredibly rigid about one specific requirement, a non-negotiable 15-minute morning ritual.
And it insists on the morning, not for some arbitrary productivity hack, right?
Right. It's because of how the autonomic nervous system wakes up. You have to consciously set the baseline.
Okay.
If you allow yourself to wake up fragmented, you will fight that fragmentation all day. If you establish an integrated home base first thing, you actually have a coordinate to return to when the chaos hits.
The text highlights the danger of the morning by describing the R1V state, reactive to variables.
Yes.
And it suggests doing a feed audit to see if you're starting your day in this state.
And what did you find when you audited your own morning? I know you tried this.
Oh man, it was a brutal mirror. The audit asks what you are queuing up in your mind the moment your eyes open.
Right.
And if I trace the actual mechanics of my morning, my phone alarm goes off, I reach over.
Yeah.
Before I even swipe to turn the noise off, I see an Instagram notification badge glowing at me.
The red dot.
The red dot. Directly beneath that, there's a push notification for a work email that instantly spikes my adrenaline.
Yep.
I unlock the phone, check the social feed, scan the email, and start mentally arguing with my coworker. My feet haven't even touched the floor yet, and I am already entirely outside of my body.
If we look at the neurochemistry of what you just described, You are flooding your system with cortisol and dopamine, driven entirely by external, unpredictable inputs.
Yeah, it feels terrible.
You have allowed an algorithm and someone else's urgency to be the architect of your nervous system for the day.
Yes.
That is the definition of the R1V state. You have zero internal locus of control.
I'm purely reacting to variables. So the alternative is this 15-minute protocol. And breaking this down, it is surprisingly accessible. It's 4 distinct phases.
Right.
Phase 1 is simply waking the body, and it's only 5 minutes.
But it is 5 minutes of intentional physical presence, gentle stretching while still in bed, physically moving every joint to assess mobility,
Just feeling where you are.
standing up and literally shaking out the limbs to move stagnant lymph and fascia, drinking a massive glass of water to hydrate tissues that have been processing toxins for 8 hours.
And there's a strict boundary here, right?
Yep.
Absolutely no screens.
No screens, period.
Then we move to phase 2, grounding the mind, which is another 5 minutes. The text introduces a brilliant framework here called the pilot checklist.
I love this part.
You run through your internal dials the same way a pilot runs through pre-flight checks before taking off. Dial 1 is streaming, or the cue.
This is asking yourself, what channel is my brain automatically tuning to today?
Like checking the radio station.
Exactly. Am I queuing up curiosity about the day? Am I queuing up dread? Am I letting an old resentment autoplay in the background?
You just notice the channel.
Dial 2 is the GPS. What is my exact physical location and what is the fuel gauge at?
And not like, how much coffee do I need?
Right. It's what is the actual biological energy level of my body this morning?
Yeah.
Dial 3 is the weather.
The internal emotional forecast. Is it a high-pressure system today? Is there a fog of grief? Is it clear and focused? Again, you aren't trying to change the weather. You are just dressing appropriately for it.
And dial 4 is gaming. I think this one is my favorite.
Yeah, it's powerful.
Framing the day's challenges as leveling up. What specific skill am I consciously choosing to practice today when I interact with my environment? Is it patience? Is it boundary setting?
It shifts you from being a victim of your day to being an active player in it.
Then we transition to phase 3. Connect to force. 3 minutes. This is where it gets highly somatic. Hand on the heart, feeling the actual pulse against your palm. It is a moment of raw biological recognition, feeling the sheer autonomous aliveness that is pumping blood through your veins without your conscious permission.
Just acknowledging you're alive.
It is a direct plug-in to the 11 million bits.
Finally, phase 4, bridge to action. The last 2 minutes. Asking the body what it needs today and asking the mind what matters most today.
You write down one single thing from each answer and you commit to honoring them.
That entire sequence is 15 minutes.
That's it.
And I know someone listening right now is thinking, I barely have time to make toast. I don't have 15 spare minutes in the morning.
People always say that.
But let's do the math on that. How much time do you lose at 2 p.m. to brain fog?
A lot.
How much time do you lose doom scrolling because your nervous system is too fried to focus? How many hours are wasted repairing a relationship because you snapped at someone from a place of reactivity?
Right.
15 minutes of proactive integration prevents hours of fragmented collateral damage.
It is the ultimate preventative medicine. However, the sources are incredibly pragmatic here.
Thank goodness.
Even if you execute the 15-minute ritual perfectly, life will inevitably throw a curveball. The client will cancel, the subway will break down, the kid will get sick.
The 10 a.m. collapse.
Yes.
The dirt trail just completely washes out. So what is the tactical gear for when you are suddenly fragmented in the middle of the Tuesday?
This is the reactive practice. The text provides a highly systematic under 2-minute recovery protocol.
Under 2 minutes.
Yes. This is not about deep meditation. This is an acute, real-time intervention to stop a neurological spiral.
Walk us through the mechanics of this, because this is where the theory actually saves you.
Step 1 takes 10 seconds. Notice without judgment.
Okay.
The millisecond you realize your jaw is clenched and your thoughts are catastrophizing, you verbalize it. You say out loud, if possible, I am fragmented right now.
Why out loud?
Because verbalizing requires engaging the language centers of your brain, which forces a slight interruption in the default mode network that is spinning the anxiety loop.
Oh.
You are tagging the state rather than being consumed by it. Step 2 is 30 seconds. Ground in the body.
This is where we use physiology to hack psychology.
Exactly. You feel your feet making solid contact with the floor. You place a hand on your sternum, and you take 3 specific deep breaths.
Why 3 deep breaths specifically?
This is crucial because a deep diaphragmatic breath, especially one with an extended exhale, physically stimulates the vagus nerve.
Right.
The vagus nerve then releases acetylcholine, which acts as a literal braking system for your heart rate. You are using the 11 million bits to send a mechanical safe signal back up to the 40-bit conscious brain.
Step 3 is 20 seconds. Name what's happening. You tag the specific trigger. Was it an ambiguous text message? Was it a blood sugar drop because you skipped breakfast? You isolate the variable that knocked you off the baseline.
And the final step takes 60 seconds. One micro adjustment.
So you don't try to fix everything.
No, you do not try to solve the entire existential crisis. You do not try to fix your whole career. You just make one tiny physiological or environmental shift.
Like what?
You drink a cold glass of water, you stretch your neck, you write the swirling thoughts down on a Post-it note to get them out of working memory.
You reset the hardware so the software can reboot.
Under 2 minutes.
Yeah. And to contextualize this recovery, the text uses a brilliant metaphor. The recalculating practice. Think about how a GPS system like Google Maps behaves when you miss an exit.
It is the perfect model of non-judgmental awareness.
Right.
When you take a wrong turn, the GPS doesn't shame you. It doesn't scream that you are a failure and you're never going to arrive.
It just says recalculating.
It simply assesses the new current coordinates and plots a revised route to the destination.
It accepts the reality of the present moment instantly. But human beings don't do that.
We really don't.
When we get knocked off our routine, we tend to panic. We either try to aggressively force our way back to the original route, even if it's blocked, or we catastrophize and assume the entire day is ruined, so we might as well eat a box of donuts and give up.
The recalculating practice is about radical acceptance. You check your current reality without judgment. You confirm your true, deeper destination, not the surface task you just failed at, but the underlying goal.
Right.
You ask the body for alternative routes, you choose one, and you execute.
I understand the GPS metaphor for a missed exit, but let's push the reality of this a bit.
Okay, push it.
What if it's not a missed exit? What if the car is literally in a ditch? What if someone listening spends 3 entire weeks completely out of alignment? They abandon the morning ritual, they are eating garbage, their sleep hygiene is non-existent. A 2-minute breathing exercise feels a bit cute for that level of collapse.
Oh, absolutely. The sources anticipate exactly this scale of failure, which is why they include the respawn protocol.
The respawn protocol.
This shifts the metaphor from a GPS to a video game. When you fail catastrophically and abandon all your practices, you hit a game over.
So this is a game over. I'm guessing the solution isn't to throw the controller at the wall and quit the game.
Right.
In gaming, you sit at the respawn screen, you check your stats, you figure out why the boss beat you, and you try again. Is the text suggesting we do a literal autopsy on our bad weeks?
It is exactly an autopsy, but crucially, one devoid of moral judgment. First, you acknowledge the game over. You don't minimize the collapse, but you strip the shame away from it.
Okay.
Second, you extract the telemetry data. Why did the system fail? What stat was too low for the environmental boss you were fighting?
Oh, like did your sleep debt finally catch up to you?
Exactly. Were you trying to maintain an unsustainable work pace?
You treat yourself like a system that experienced a predictable error rather than a bad person who lacks discipline.
Precisely. Third, you check your underlying health. Do you need a period of pure, unoptimized rest before you can handle the friction of practice again?
Sometimes you just need to sleep.
And fourth, you commit to a specific date and time to respawn. You hit the button. The text argues that the only actual permanent failure is the decision to walk away from the console entirely.
The only real failure is deciding not to respawn.
Yeah.
That takes so much weight off the process.
It really does.
Now, armed with the morning ritual, the 2-minute recovery, and the respawn protocol, a listener might be feeling pretty equipped.
Ready to go.
But as the text transitions into Chapter 9, it delivers a very stark warning. Resistance is coming.
It is a biological guarantee. And it is so important to frame this correctly for you listening. When you feel massive resistance to doing these practices, it does not mean you're weak or unmotivated.
Right.
It means your nervous system is functioning perfectly. Your brain actively defends its known territory, those paved neural highways of stress and dissociation. Your brain wants to keep using them because predictability feels like safety, even if that predictability is making you miserable.
The brain would rather be comfortably miserable than venture into the unknown.
Exactly.
The text outlines 5 specific obstacles, 5 psychological bear traps that this biological resistance will set for you. Let's unpack these, because if you are trying to do this work, you are going to step in at least one of these.
Oh, absolutely.
Obstacle 1 is perfectionism, which the text frames as the all-or-nothing trap.
This is a devastatingly common trap for high achievers. You take this profound concept of somatic integration and you turn it into just another ruthless metric.
Right, trying to get an A+ and relaxing.
Yeah. You try to perfectly monitor your body and your breath at all times. And ironically, the hypervigilant effort to be perfectly integrated becomes its own source of massive nervous system fragmentation.
You become stressed about not being perfectly relaxed.
Exactly. The solution the text offers is the concept of good enough integration. D+ work is infinitely better than quitting.
Just a D+.
Remembering to take one conscious, grounded breath while waiting for an elevator on a Tuesday is a victory. It keeps the dirt trail open.
Obstacle 2 is the time illusion. The classic, I am just too busy for this.
Yeah.
I will call myself out here.
Let's hear it.
I will genuinely convince myself that my schedule is far too packed to do a 5-minute body scan, and then I will immediately spend 25 minutes in a trance scrolling a social media feed.
Because it is never a capacity issue. It is a prioritization issue disguised as a capacity issue.
Yeah.
The brain perceives the body scan as high friction, building a new trail, and the scrolling as low friction, using an existing highway.
That makes sense.
The tactical solution here is habit stacking. You link the new high-friction practice to an existing non-negotiable anchor in your day.
Like brushing your teeth.
Yes. You do your grounding breath work while the coffee machine is brewing. You do the physiological check-in while you are brushing your teeth. You tether the dirt trail to a paved road.
Obstacle 3 is the delayed gratification dip. This is the heavy frustration that hits right around week 3 or 4.
It always hits there.
You've been doing the morning ritual, you've been doing the recovery protocol, but your baseline anxiety hasn't magically vanished. Your boss is still infuriating. The world is still chaotic.
This happens because the conscious mind expects a 254-day neuroplastic rewiring process to yield permanent results in 21 days. The solution is to completely shift your metrics of success. You have to stop measuring your progress by the absence of triggers. You are a human. You will always get triggered.
So what do you measure?
Instead, you measure your recovery speed. Are you noticing the fragmentation in 2 minutes instead of 2 hours?
Oh, wow.
Are you returning to baseline by the afternoon instead of ruining your entire week? Shortening the refractory period of a stress response is the true, measurable metric of neuroplastic change.
Obstacle 4 is the isolation factor. You are trying to fundamentally rewire your nervous system while swimming in a culture that completely normalizes and frankly rewards living on a hyper-stress autopilot.
And attempting to regulate your nervous system in isolation is exhausting because humans are biologically wired for co-regulation.
We need other people.
If everyone around you is panicked, your mirror neurons are telling you to panic. The solution is finding your people. Even if it is just one single accountability partner that you text a thumbs-up emoji to after your morning ritual.
Just knowing someone else is doing it?
That shared experience downregulates the threat response of doing something different from the herd.
And finally, obstacle 5, which is deeply fascinating, the spiritual bypassing trap. Let me pose a scenario.
Okay.
If I am legitimately furious at my partner for crossing a boundary, but instead of addressing it, I go into another room, use my 4-6 vagal nerve breathwork to completely calm my physiology, and then just pretend everything is fine. Isn't that a win?
Why?
Aren't I being a highly integrated, peaceful person?
And you are doing the exact opposite of integration.
Really?
You are weaponizing psychological tools to avoid your emotional reality. That is the definition of bypassing.
Oh, yeah.
True integration does not mean you are always calm. It means you have the capacity to hold messy, intense reality without fragmenting.
Right.
You do not transcend anger by breathing it away and ignoring the boundary violation. You use the breath work to ground yourself so that you can process the anger skillfully and have the difficult conversation.
I see.
If you use presence as an excuse to avoid practical conflict, you are just finding a shinier, more acceptable way to dissociate from the 11 million bits.
Using mindfulness to hide from life. That is a massive paradigm shift. But as we look at all these standard obstacles, the text introduces one final overarching threat, the meta-obstacle.
Yes.
The tsunami versus the teacup. We've been talking about commutes and annoying emails. What happens when multiple severe systemic crises hit at the exact same time? A severe health diagnosis, sudden financial ruin, the death of a loved one.
In those moments of acute trauma, your carefully constructed 15-minute morning ritual and your pilot checklists are going to feel absurd.
Right.
It feels like trying to hold back a tidal wave with a teacup.
So what is the protocol? Do we just abandon the attempted integration until a crisis passes?
No, but you radically shift your expectations. You deploy the emergency protocol.
Okay.
When the system is entirely overwhelmed, you strip the practice down to absolute bare-bones survival mode. First, the 3-minute emergency response to a spike in panic. Physical discharge.
Physical discharge.
Yes. When an animal survives a predator attack, it literally shakes to discharge the massive dump of adrenaline and cortisol from its muscles. Humans suppress this.
We try to act normal.
Exactly. But in a crisis, you need to physically shake, tremble, or grunt to move that trapped kinetic energy out of the tissue.
Then what?
Then you force the parasympathetic nervous system online with strict 4-4-6 breath work. Inhale 4, hold 4, exhale 6. You are mechanically overriding the panic.
Okay.
And finally, you ask the most blunt reality check possible. Am I physically safe right this exact second? Not tomorrow, not next month, right this second.
And alongside that acute response, the text outlines a daily minimum for periods of prolonged grief or crisis. 2 minutes in the morning just to physically feel your feet on the ground. 1 minute midday to consciously pause. 2 minutes in the evening to intentionally release the tension in your jaw and shoulders before sleep.
Because the profound realization here is that integration is not meant to prevent crises. It is the life raft that provides a baseline during them. When your life is easy, integration is a wonderful optimization tool. When your life is falling apart, integration is your only tether to reality.
Integration is the life raft. To wrap up the mechanics of all this, we have to look at one final concept from the mathematical sections of the text that honestly alters how you perceive time. It's called saturated synergization.
It's a heavy term, but a beautiful concept.
We've talked about how intimidating that 254-day neuroplasticity timeline is. If I'm struggling today, how do I possibly build a lifespan of integration?
You build it 1/4 second at a time. Saturated synergization posits that the absolute smallest functional unit of human transformation is the 1/4 second. It is the state of total dual participation.
Explain dual participation.
It means being completely physically immersed in the action of the present moment while simultaneously maintaining a witnessing, observing awareness of yourself in that moment.
So you're in it, but you're watching it.
You are both the actor and the audience, and you cannot sustain that for hours at first, but you can sustain it for 1/4 second.
It makes the entire endeavor fractal. You don't have to manage the next 254 days. You don't even have to manage the next hour of this meeting.
Right.
You only ever have to manage the current 1/4 second. If you can achieve that dual participation, that connection to the 11 million bits, for 1/4 second, you have successfully built the atomic unit of mastery.
Exactly.
You string enough of those together, you literally rewire the myelin in your brain. You string enough of those together, and you change your entire life.
It takes the crushing macro trajectory of personal transformation and makes it manageable by hyper-focusing on the microstructure.
So, bringing all of this home for you listening, we have mapped out a massive amount of territory today from chapters 8 and 9. The overarching theme is clear. The architecture of personal mastery stands. It is not always pretty, it is certainly not perfect, but it is sturdy, it is highly responsive, and it is alive.
Yes.
Integration is not a sterile checklist of things you do. It becomes the biological lens through which you experience the world.
It is the necessary evolution from staring at the theoretical map in your pocket to actually getting mud on your boots in the terrain of your own life.
Getting mud on your boots, I like that. But the text leaves us with a paradox to close out this section, setting the stage for part 2 of this deep dive.
It does.
The traveler finally reaches a plateau. They've built the dirt trails into highways, they catch their fragmentation quickly, their recovery protocols are dialed in, they are living in the body. They assume the inner work is essentially complete. But a persistent feeling of unfinished business creeps in.
Which leads to the paradox of completion. The source material states that mastery contains a paradox. It becomes complete only when it is given away.
Wow.
The skills and the presence that liberate you personally hold their greatest biological and social power when they are used to liberate others. Your personal breakthrough is not the finish line, it is the beginning of your responsibility.
Your breakthrough is the beginning of your responsibility. But before we wrap up and send you out to try the 15-minute morning ritual tomorrow, I want to leave you with a broader thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
If the math on neuroplasticity holds true, If we truly possess the biological capability to wire in grounded presence just as strongly and efficiently as we have wired in chronic anxiety and dissociation, what happens to a society when a critical mass of people actually do this?
It's a fascinating extrapolation.
Right. If a million people upgrade from reacting to 40 bits of fear-based data to responding to 11 million bits of reality, are we just making ourselves slightly more productive employees? Or does collective nervous system regulation represent a fundamental shift in human evolution?
That's the real question.
If the person next to you on the subway is holding space instead of dissociating, how does that change the room? Think about the ripple effect of your own biology next time you're tempted to stay a brain in a jar. We will see you for part 2.